Well, we have a lot of questions. So very thanks for the presentation. Very interesting. And just to give everyone an idea, as Blue Cactus, we've been very privileged actually to be involved in that whole digital journey. So it was not just the quality aspects we worked with. Also, Ajay and team were very much involved in whole DNA tracking, looking at sampling, production, product development, costing, and right up to warehouse slotting. So it's been a very interesting journey, and it's a big learning experience for us as well. And the kind of support we received was amazing. So we have a lot of questions. So I'm going to try and take up as many as I can,
Okay.
and see if we could probably answer those questions. So they're not in the order in which people have asked them. I just kind of trying to categorize questions and see what are the common themes. So
Okay.
one question we had was, can this be looked as like a light PLM? So is there a light PLM aspect to the whole thing? And I know it's deviating a little bit from the quality part of it, but
Yes.
maybe you could just talk a little bit about that. It was not just, so what all you did in that in terms of a light PLM.
So exactly. So see, all this information data, what we are sharing across the stakeholders is a kind of PLM software. So every process has been integrated currently with the organization. I can say broadly classifying right from fabric mills, the entire sourcing, the product, the tech team, the vendors, which are a major contributors for getting the data analysis. They are on board. The warehouse is on board, the finance team is on board. So we are on a in a journey of this digital. We have gone ahead over a period of time, and we were able to integrate with our own systems, and we are getting this database primarily to get the analysis and the reports and the notification. So this notification engine itself is a big thing, and we are working on it. So it's a journey basically, and I can say it's pretty much closer to the PLM.
Okay. And just to add to Ajay, what Ajay mentioned, that apart from this quality, there's a whole, like I mentioned, product development, costing. So that right from journey, right from product conceptualization, right up to getting the goods into the warehouse. So what Arvind has actually done is did the complete entire digitization, the entire sourcing journey, right from product conceptualization to that. And yeah, I mean, it's used like a light PLM as well. So where you can track your sample development and product development, etc. And if you need more information, happy to send details to you. Another question we have is, has digitization reduced the manpower requirement of QAQCs?
I can say yes, but contrary to that, how well did you see? Year on year, the business grows, and as I said, the pipeline becomes leaner and leaner. You do more, you the kind of business like online business, promotional orders, core fashion. So these becomes leaner and leaner. So are we effective utilizing the current strength? That is contrary to your question. That is one thing. And of course, we have overseen with the number of style options getting increased. The vendor base is getting scattered. I don't say that the vendor base is becoming bigger. I say they are moving out of Bangalore. So travel is one of the constraints for a QA to go and actually audit. So definitely with this kind of thing, we actually have seen a reduction in the QA, as well as the performance has been improved over a period of time technically.
Okay. Another question we got is, the self audits that you're talking about.
Mm.
Can you trust the vendors, especially the domestic vendors, to do self audits? How has your experience been in terms of the self audits that vendors are doing? And particularly becoming this adds on to the bigger question of, given this COVID situation and the fact that a lot of brands, people are not visiting factories, and people are having to do offline. How would you talk about this whole, about trust in terms of audits, self audit especially?
Self audit. See, at any given point of time, the vendor can hamper once, twice, thrice, any kind of report. But what I overall see with this AI also coming into picture is with different reports that gets generated, a lot of correlation is being studied basically. This correlation exactly talks about how a vendor behavior is also getting into the thing. Now he constantly sends a shipment and I get a failed audit at a warehouse or at a DC. So obviously this reflects. It's one or the other form. I can go back to him and say that the hygiene of your reporting or the hygiene of the quality audit is not being good enough. And more or less which I talk which I've spoken about AI is if a vendor QA is constantly passing a consignment for over a period of 100 odd reports, so obviously the system can throw up that he is marginally passing every consignment, so I can still take an action. So I'm not saying that every vendor can be perfect. I'm not saying every vendor to not. It's all about trust and collaboration. Though at any given point of time, at this point of time, I can analyze everything. That's how I look at this correlation bit as a very important aspect. And of course, the customer complaints that pictures in. How can I correlate back to the defects at various stages? And over a period of time I can rate the vendor based on the hygiene or the transparency of that particular vendor. I hope I could have answered that question.
Yeah, yes, you did.
Yeah.
And I will kind of classify. There's a lot of questions, so I'm going to there are some of the questions are common. There were certain questions asked about the technical capabilities of the software, and I'll just add to that. So one question was, can you add more defects if you don't see it in your master list? So yes, you can. You can create your own master list of defects which are specific to what you would like to do. So that is possible. Integration with other softwares, yes. Software integrates with SAP, Oracle, bunch of other softwares. There are some other questions which have come,
Yep.
and if in case I don't take your question, please excuse me. I'm trying to get to as many as I can. There's a whole list coming in right now. You've talked about, somebody said the concept of remote inspection sounds really good in theory. And it seems implementable in regular, never out of stock orders. What about seasonal or specific orders? For that, do you think more traditional methods of QA will happen, or through video, at least video conferencing? You want to answer that question, or because I know you're handling all different types of orders in your system. How are you handling that?
We are in this mode of getting remote audit or distant audit, whatever you name it. Now I'm also surprised at how auditors across different organizations, not only Apparel, how are they going and virtually having so the world has become virtually very big, and I see a lot of interactions that are happening right now on the system. Like 2-3 weeks back, I have reviewed a PP sample. I know that our industry is really based on touch and feel, but still I can say 80 to 90% of the calls can be taken upon with the kind of technical tools what we have with the current system, and we have to go and drive this to get the maximum benefits. I'm not saying that traditional is the best way, but things will be made to force to take some steps, basically with the kind of constraints. As I've told you, safety becomes the norm, so nothing can bypass that. So we actually rely on the vendors, and also it's the vendors responsibility to train up the QAs as per the brand requirements, so that we can have a good communication call and then take decisions.
Okay, couple of other questions.
Yep.
One was on, how do you see the role of a QAQC change evolve in post-COVID scenario?
Very interesting question, actually. Post-COVID, before COVID, and post-COVID. Now, COVID-19 is not the thing. COVID-20 will come in place. I see that this is going to stick along for a quite long time. The concept of QA QC, the QA auditing 100%. Obviously, we are also. I think over a period of time, I think 10 years back, we had this empowerment of the QAs vendors. This is gradually happening. So now slowly the QA structure will move on to the factory level, basically. So that is where exactly we are also looking at into it on how do we entrust the whole process systems as and when we get new vendors getting onboarded. So it is very important that these things percolate down to the level, and then we also see a drastic reduction of building this trust and getting the systems right, and the product quality itself speaks the sales basically. That is how we are also looking ahead on this restructuring of the whole monitoring process basically. So I am a firm believer that the quality has to be at at the source, and in-station quality has to be built up. There's no doubt that we have to come out of this policing and monitoring thing. We trust and believe the reports and get going. That's the whole way looking forward.
So one question I'm not clear. So what are the options a vendor denies as we do not have a confirmation or a sign off? That means vendor says, since we do not have a formal confirmation. Did I answer that question? Ask the question properly? So
In terms of getting virtual signature, that's the.
I guess so. Yeah.
See, I personally see. I mean, of course, there's a collaboration and trust that I can. I'm saying it multiple times, but I'm saying now we see a lot of reports. Signature not mandatory, required at the bottom of the A4 size. This is auto signature. Now I only see that the product is yours basically. For the manufacturer, the product is yours. Now we give a sign off. You want it on so the way what the earlier style file had a bunch of papers, I can say, and duplication of papers, one copy for the dispatch guy, one copy for the buying QA, and one copy for the factory. So I can see only one report digitally is being signed off and agreed. That's it.
Okay. One question is there, what is the correlation rate you've seen between self-audit and the audit you're doing in the DC? How has that been? I know you people are doing it, or how has that, the self-audit a vendor does and the audit that you're doing in your warehouse?
So typically, the self audit would be actually there's a huge difference actually. There will be a difference in terms of the DC audit, because DC audit basically we do a 20-piece audit based on AQL. So the defects that comes in will actually the number be bigger. And at the factory, of course, they do at an AQL level. So the difference is marginal, but we are constantly working with the vendors on this correlation bit, which I always see is an important factor in analyzing the data and getting the systems right.
Okay. I'm trying to see if we have missed anything. Somebody's asked, can we trust vendors on filling up information correctly and with transparency? I think you probably answered that question.
I have been doing it. I completely trust the vendor base. There's no second thought about it.
Okay. Okay, great. Somebody's asked, can this platform be used for training?
Of course, there's a training bit also. See, this comes under challenge. I mean, this is a change management. Any change management will certainly definitely take time in terms of adoption, and as well as a lot of training is required in terms of getting used to this kind of system and getting away from the Excel sheets and all those things. So we faced a lot of these things, and eventually, over a period of time and with constant team support and the kind of various, we have developed training videos to training manuals and training videos along with the Blue Cactus team, so we could roll it out at different levels, and every 6 months we do a common understanding of all these things. So we have evolved over a period of time. So this is what exactly a digital transformation is all about. Change management is all about. It will take time, but it will sustain for long.
That was, I think, let me just understand. I think, let me add to that. The person asking the question also probably meant that can they use this digital tool this quality to train their QCs or to train the QC of the vendors, which I think should be very much possible, whereby they can do inspections and we can look at the digital data and see the correlation of their inspection. And for the same shipment, how did the self audit happen and what was the data of the QC trained QC. So to answer that question, I think definitely it can be a very useful tool for training your QCs as well, or at least the vendor QCs. So I took the liberty to answer that question, Ajay, on your behalf. But I think that was probably also one of the things they were asking for.
Yep.
Other thing was, there was a question was asked, give an example of an AI application, and probably maybe I can answer that from a technical standpoint. That what we've done in this is also, since the AI works on basically a lot of data mining, and the data happens when you have your own data. So there's now almost 4 or 5 seasons worth of data in their system, I know, and now that is being leveraged for basically automation of follow-ups. The system learns from the data and looks at what is working, what is not working, what are the results, and based on past history is now working on automation. Also, there's a lot of automation and AI in costing, which is being
Chatbot.
the chatbot. So we have a chatbot. Yeah, absolutely. There's a chatbot where this software as a conversation. So we're trying to, as one of the things that we're trying to do is make it as user friendly and as easy for people to adopt. So converting it into a software as a conversation, so people can do it. We are also adding in voice based. So there's a lot of other technologies, but keep in mind this all is built up when you have a lot of data. So it requires you to put in a lot of initial data and a lot of hard work in getting it relevant to your organization. So I think probably I'm answered that question. There was one question asked on ROI, and you talked about ROI, and you also said COPQ was reduced by 20-50%. How do you measure those parameters and how do you calculate the ROI?
See, this is completely an internal. I am just giving a gist of what exactly we have specifically certain numbers which we could see out of this particular thing. So I may not say this is confidential, which is pertaining to the company, but I could see a large difference in terms of, honestly speaking, large difference in terms of resources. That's what I initially told when I put the ROI slide. I clearly mentioned as a pointer that data would be the ROI, data analysis would be an ROI. This is how we analyze, and we have come across reducing many of the processes, duplication, reducing, I can say, reducing the lead time, and also the cost of poor quality in terms of rescreen. If somebody is accountable, somebody is being monitored, so obviously they build up to take certain actions and improve the product quality. So the reduction might be 2%, and 2% on the huge volumes that we are doing is a big number. So that's what I'm saying, that we could see almost a huge margin in terms of a reduction of these numbers, which can be quantified. And I mean, it's up to organization to organization that looks up and just calculates their numbers primarily.
Okay, few questions.
Yeah.
So there are a few questions meant. I guess I'll probably answer. What is the duration of the data stored? I think it's a cloud-based.
Yes.
We've got you can still go up to as many seasons of data, so there is no challenge on that. And you can link. Somebody asked, can it be linked to an ERP? Yes. So I think some standard ERPs, the plugins are already there. One question, which was yeah.
I think I've become an IT guy from a quality person, actually, honestly speaking.
Yeah, I mean, I think don't we all need to adopt technology? I am a firm believer in that. So you're preaching to the choir here. So yeah, I mean, it's music to my ears. One final question, and I think we got just 2 minutes left. Somebody's asked, does it have pre-built quality standards for different parameters and ability to accept, reject on that parameter? Can you put in some standards on that?
We can, technically speaking, we have done the above basic thing. So as and when the app gets evolved, so we have released almost 8 to 10 versions of the mobile app from the day we started. So it keeps getting evolved. So it's up to your requirement, and the team is here to support in whatever. So that's what my end of the statement always said, that the more you involve, the more you get evolved, basically. So that's how we developed, and we developed, and a lot of things will get into your head once we start using it. So there's no end to it. That's what I can sum it up.
Okay, great. I think we've run out of time. There are still a few questions I'm sure I've not answered,
Yeah.
and what we'll do is for we have a list of all questions. Maybe for people we haven't answered, we will send back. We will maybe send a FAQ and answer list. Another thing is for people who probably missed this or want to see this again. This is all available on YouTube. We will be uploading it shortly by today. So you'll get if you want to like to share it, you want to talk about, get some more information, we'll do that. And obviously you can always get in touch with us if you need some more details. With that said, I will come to a close, I think, of the session.
Thank
It's
you.
12 o'clock exact, so we want to be on time. And Ajay, first of all, thank you so much for
Thanks,
being,
Gunish. Thank you.
for all the support and, for this presentation and the time. Also for all the attendees, I think it was, thank you so much for your time. We got some very good participation and some very interesting questions. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get to all of those questions, but we will, I think it was an interactive and useful session, and I hope all of you found it very well. So thank you once again. And with that, we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Gunish.